السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إياك نعبد ولك نصلي ونسجد وإليك نسعى ونحفظ نرجو رحمتك ونخشى عذابك إن عذابك بالكفار ملحق. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت فلك الحمد على ما قضيت. نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum, my friends. Welcome, everyone. Inshallah, we will continue to study the section Jinn today, and that is my purpose to finish the section today. Section Jinn today, 72nd section of the Mus'haf. We studied these 20 and 21 verses, 21st verses, but it is related to the 21st verse to our today's subject, so I will just read it. قُلْ إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ لَكُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا رَشَدًا. Say, it is not in my power to harm you, nor to guide you aright. Now, this verse emphasizes that addressing to the Prophet first, and of course, generally, it addresses also us. So we should know that we don't really have anything in our power to harm anyone, and especially those who do not accept the message of God and reject the Qur'an. But we can just convey the message, and they are free to accept it or not, as long as they don't really try to harm us bodily. We have nothing to do with them, and we have no power to harm them. This is what the Prophet is advised to say to his opponents, to his rejectors. That is the beginning of the discussion in the following verses, that even the Prophet, who was employed by the creator of the universe and by the one who sends the message, he has no power to do it. All power to belong to God alone. So in the following verse, we understand that this is a just preparing our minds for those people who are really listening to the message for the further discussions. This is the verse 22 we have not studied. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let's start from it. قل إني لن يجيرني من الله أحد ولن أجد من دونه ملتحدا. Say, no one can protect me from God, and I will never find any refuge except in him. Now, no one. The emphasis is here again made in order to prepare our minds that for this age, until this age, even before the prophetic message was delivered to the people, it was the custom of the people to understand that if there is something happening to them, especially to the persons, to human beings, they used to, and still they are, referring this harm, especially the psychological ones. They refer to these psychological harms to something that they don't know. Now, physical harm can be found out something is wrong with their body. So they wouldn't do that because they know that, for example, one of their organs are not properly working, operating. So they will say, oh, something is wrong with my heart, with my lung, with my bladder, whatever. But when it is a psychological problem, rather than going into the deep down problems caused by their own options or neglects or obsessions or aggressions or misunderstanding the purpose of the creation, rather than going into their own responsibility area, field, they want to refer it to something else. This is generally the case, unless the psychological problem is caused by a biological reason, mostly something to do with their organs, but generally with their brain. Generally, I'm not a psychologist, but that is a common knowledge. And of course, they need to be treated biologically. So there must be some other ways of treating it if it is possible, if it is treatable. But psychological ones, completely psychological ones, mostly come from our negligence of some sort of responsibilities. I feel that most of the psychological problems come from mostly not taking our responsibility seriously. Personal responsibility seriously, and developing some sort of addictions as a result of assuming something else is influencing it, or not really taking up their responsibility of using their free will in order to make firm decisions. Some weaknesses may be not really worked on, so these weaknesses might have developed and at the end became a kind of addiction for a person. Again, it is not my field, but what our concern is here as far as this verse is concerned, now we have to make sure that everything comes from God. And we can take only protection from God and find refuge in him. Because why is it important in this section? Because people think that jinns obsessed them. That is why they are innocent. They have to suffer because of the effect of the jinn possessions or effect of the jinn in one way or another. So they take comfort in throwing the responsibility on something else that they don't really know. And this famous phrase is used, jinn, because they keep hearing from previous revelations as well that, and also human reasoning requires that this universe cannot consist of only matter. So there must be some other elements in creation. That is very human understanding. So these elements are known throughout the history as jinns, although they don't know what they are, who they are, what their reality is, but it is a kind of a scapegoat used by people saying, these people are really possessing me and I am innocent. I am the victim of them, their possession. So again, rather than looking for a solution, just expelling the responsibility from themselves and attributing it to something else and saying they are responsible for it, not me. I am innocent. They make their problem even impossible to be solved. We have to understand this. We are created with a free will. We have to know and learn our limitations and responsibilities, and we have to use our free will to control our caprices and fortify our weaknesses and try to help ourselves rather than escaping from it. That is why it is understood from this verse and from the previous verse that we just touched upon briefly, we know that jinns or nothing else can really harm us, especially psychologically, and also our belief, as far as our belief is concerned. No one can really make us unbelieve, neither no one can make me believe in what they want. But they may force me, and I may say it from my tongue only, yes, I accept what you said. But they cannot get into my mind, they cannot get into my heart and change it. It is impossible. They can only make me or force me to accept what they want to hear from me. I can say it, but it doesn't mean that I confirm that. They cannot really confirm that I didn't confirm it. But what they can do, they may force me to physically express the necessities of my belief in my personal and social life as far as the physical side of the matter is concerned. We have to know this. Apart from this, no one can affect our belief. No one can affect our psychological stability. But we have to make our mind up. We have to decide about it. That's what I understood from this important word. So multihada is an interesting word. It is translated as refuge. in fact, is a, how can I describe this? Lahat, in Arabic, used for grave. Why? In the grave, that is what really dictionaries explain it. In the grave, in Muslim tradition, they put the body not straight away under the soil, but in the grave, but they have a niche, if you like, in the grave, slightly went into the wall, under the wall of the grave on the side, and put the body towards it for some reason. I don't know whether it is really necessary or not, what it is the fiqh matter, which I'm not qualified about. But this is, as you are going on the right path, if you deviate it, for example, rather than driving your car on the main lanes, one of the lanes, but getting into the side where it is used for emergency cases or emergency vehicles. If you go there, that is a kind of, it means ilhad. That is why in the Islamic tradition, those people who are on the path, but make some sort of deviations, swerving from the right path, they are called mulhid, the same word. But they are not really kafir, completely wrong. That's why Qur'an says, الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي أَسْمَائِهِ. Those people who make some sort of misunderstanding and interpretation of God's qualities, God's names, are called yulhiduna, means make laht. It means some sort of place aside the right way. That's why the Quran says here, I will never find any refuge except in Allah, in God, in Him, which means I will take my own responsibility when it comes that I cannot really do anything within my capacity of free will. I will leave it to God. When I use my free will, I will be conscious that the result will be created by God. It is another matter. But, for example, I want to drink water, and I have some water bottles in the kitchen. I can go and take it. If I can say that I take refuge with God, please, God, give me a bottle of water, a glass of water. This is not my responsibility, but it is not God's responsibility. God created my ability. God created my understanding. God created water there, and God created me with the ability to walk there and get it, to understand it. But what is expected of me, excuse me, after doing what remains on me, going and getting the water and drinking it, it is now my responsibility to acknowledge that the result of saturation, saturated, or quenching my need for water, my liquid for my body, it is the creation of God that is something else. That depends on God, whether He will create me with the ability, He will create water for me, or not. That is responsibility. But after He creates everything, it is my responsibility to use my free will to get water and drink it. We have to make it is understandable, but theoretically we have to understand where our responsibility remains. For example, if I have to take care of my free will and do not imagine something which doesn't exist and give an appearance of existence to it, and imagining that he is really affecting me, it is not my responsibility. So I cannot wake up. I cannot really feel comfortable in my being, and I feel always that I am pulled back from what I want to do. These are all false imaginations. That is what we learn from this interesting verse. Literally, what I have been saying so far, the verse doesn't say anything literally about it. But within the context, this verse is for this purpose. If you really use your mind within the context of the Quran, you will understand that the Quran is reminding me this, inshallah. Okay, 23, verse 23. Now, let me go back. So, no one can protect me from God, and I will never find any refuge except Him. إلا بلاغا من الله ورسالته ومن يعص الله ورسوله فإن له نار جهنم خالدين فيها أبدا. I only deliver because the previous verse 21, excuse me, 21 said, I cannot do anything. I cannot really force you to do anything, force you to accept the message. No, I have no power. God just gave me the responsibility to deliver it to you. That's what I do it. Now it comes in this verse again, إِلَّا بَلَاغًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرِسَالَتِهِ. Sorry for this interruption. I only deliver what I receive from God and His message. And God continues to talk. He who disobeys God and His messenger will have the fire of hell, Nara Jahannam, where they will be forever. Khalidina fiha abada. That is interesting. Mostly the Quran mentions that the life in paradise will be forever with this expression, Khalidina fiha, they will remain there abada for the people of paradise. Generally speaking, the Quran says in the Quran, in its verses related to people who are really thrown into hell, if you like, or created in hell, khalidina fiha. They will remain there without abada, it means forever. This emphasis is used here, not only here, but rarely. But for abada is infinitely is used for the people of paradise. Now, this is a side point, a kind of general information. So I only deliver what I receive from God and His messages. So this is a good reminder for the Prophet and in extension for us. We have to say to the people, first of all, we have to educate ourselves with the message. And then if you have an opportunity to speak to someone who is ready and open to listen to us, to communicate with us, without forcing them, we say we have to deliver the message to them. So if you or I disobey God and his messenger, will have the fire of hell. If I disobey, I will have the fire of hell, where I will be forever, as long as I remain as a disobedient of God and his messenger. Now, we should understand that whoever disobeys God and his messenger will be in hell. This is obviously refers to the hereafter. We always say that any verse mentioning about the consequence of our choices, especially as far as the belief and our actions are concerned, related to the hereafter, but also some less number of verses refer to it. Most of the verses related to this subject. If somebody disobeys, he will be in fire or in hell. And if someone obeys, he will be rewarded with paradise, much, much more than what they deserve to have it. Generally speaking, the Quran emphasizes on it, but rarely refers that their world life also will be in trouble. So we should understand this kind of verses, that if I don't obey God's message, and also the representation of the message in the life of the prophet, and if I don't accept his representation of the message in his practical life, then I have to feel the pain within my own spiritual life, in my feelings. How long? As long as I remain in disobeying God and his messenger. Of course, most of the people, when you say obey God, it is easier for human beings to obey God, because to obey God is not heavy on human ego, human arrogance, self-centered concern that I am enough for myself, I am a good man. Usually people say, God will definitely reward me because I am doing all good things. So they have no problem in obeying God or accepting that they have to obey God. But it is very hard for any human being to obey any other equal, any other being who is equal to his status of existence, which means prophets are human beings. So if they don't understand that while they are obeying the representation of the message through the life of the prophet, but they may think that obeying the human personality of the prophets, this it becomes very difficult for them. For example, for many years, most of the stories narrated to us in the Quran, the contemporaries of the messengers reject the prophets by saying, you are a person like us, correct? That's not wrong. But continuing that, why should you receive message from God rather than me? What is more in you than me. In the case of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, it is even the worst scenario God is presenting. He is poor. He has no status in the society because he is just an orphan. And he has no quality to be a leading position in poetry, which was very important that time. The Prophet wasn't able to make or say poems because it is not within his capacity. God prepared it that the Quran will be challenging and no one will be able to attribute to Quranic, inimitable quality of Quran's poetry. So everybody for 40 years know that Muhammad, in their language, Muhammad is one of us, a person, a poor guy. He just has no really protection in his life. One of the citizens, ordinary citizens, orphan. I mean, no really children or somebody who is going to take care of him and protect him. But he was an honorable man because of his honesty, truthful person. He was a truthful person. Everybody says this poor guy is it is trustworthy, so you can trust him. But he doesn't have any say in the administration of the social affairs of the tribe. It becomes almost impossible for those who attach importance to status, power. The number of children that time. Now we can tell not number of children because people really don't mention about it, but the number of the amounts of dollars in my account. Of course, the subject changed, but the idea is the same. Number of children represents his family power. Now, my money in my bank account represents my power. Nowadays, we can say how rich you are, then you are better off in the society. Poor people are that, the unsuccessful poor people, they have no value. So that is why it was very difficult for the prophets. And also it is another reality that we have to know. That is directly related to our time and directly related to our social life. Islam is such a religion that makes everybody equal and rejects the superiority, which is called nowadays elitist understanding. Some people think that our family is an elite family, elected. So, we are rich, we have big companies under our command, and everybody respects us because of their money. They find more difficult to submit to the reality that the message presents to us. That is why I say being poor or having a quality that almost in this context of this society, it makes your status, your job, your income guaranteed. Watch out. It may cause a lot of problem in your spiritual life. It is more difficult than being poor. It doesn't mean that Islam encourages being poor, but it is a social reality that poor people accept the message of the Prophet and obedience of God and the Prophet, because the Prophet is not claiming I am a superior being, because he comes with a message, and the message teaches that everybody should be equal before God. And those people who feel that they are or think that they are above others, they are thinking wrong. So there must be a real equality in the society, just equality in the society, rather than your finance and power, political power, or your army power. Your virtue, human virtue, makes you valuable. Those people who have no claim about it accept Islam because they are not going to lose anything. But those people who are the people who think they are honorable people there, noble people in the society, as they call in some societies, the lords of the society, then they are losing their false pride. And it is difficult for them. So what happens now, and especially historically, what happened in the Prophet Muhammad's time, alayhi salam, poor people gathered around him. So these people accepted obeying the prophetic exemplary life and obeying the prophetic message, not his personal life. For example, come and cook for me. No, prophets never ever do that. They don't even expect their wives to do that. They do themselves as much as they can, or share the family life equally with their wives. There are many narrations about the life of the Prophet in this case. So the prophets don't expect them to give any money to them or pay something for their service. No, prophets only conveys the message, delivers the message, and lives their simple life at the level of moderate people. Even they are rich, they cannot really show it off. But they fulfill their responsibility by delivering the message. They don't impose anyone to serve their caprices. So poor people were around them usually. We have to understand the importance of it. Nowadays, what they do, they look at the Muslim communities, they are all poor because they cannot exploit. They cannot really dominate on other peoples, colonize them, and take their wealth. They call it natural resources away from them and make it your own property. The Muslims, the believers, cannot do that. They cannot cheat in trade. They cannot cheat in industry. They cannot really use twisted language in order to exploit or agitate people's emotions in advertisements. They are going to sell something irrelevant, for example, glasses, but these glasses are advertised with a background, a beautiful, attractive lady. And when you look at the lady, if someone sees it, the picture of a woman, so attractive, sexually attractive, I mean. And you forget about the reality of glasses. You get, it really matches. They play all these tricky ways to cheat people, to divert the attentions of the people. A believer can never ever do that. So they remain behind. They say Muslim people's the population everywhere is appalling. Yeah, of course, appalling, because go back to the colonialization process and see how the colonizers treated them and exploited them, enslaved them, used them freely. Don't we all remember what happened in America? All this substructure of roads and tunnels and subways and most of the buildings made by slaves. Made by slaves. And they didn't pay anything to the slaves, only a bowl of food and maybe a small place to sleep. That's it. Extremely cheap. Rather than cheap, free labor. And they say, look, we are developed. And look at the Muslim people. Muslim people cannot do that. Slavery is prohibited. They cannot do that. They are strongly advised, ordered to pay the right of the laborer. Or they cannot really compete with you in this, within this condition. So they say, look, those poor, unsuccessful, mostly uneducated people follow Islam. Look, we are developed, civilized civilization. Okay, that is what this obedience of the messenger is important for us. Because obedience of the messenger means obeying God who sends his message through him and employs him to represent it in his life, so that I have to obey and follow the exemplary life of the prophets in order to have a physical, palpable, practical side of my life. I can learn belief system, fundamentals of my belief from the Quran. But how can I apply it in my life? How can I really organize my moral, ethical life with it? I have to learn it from prophetic examples. That is why وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, whoever disobeys God and his message, or we can even some commentaries say, وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, it means while they are disobeying the prophets, they are disobeying God. Because to disobey God, God is the creator of the universe. He only orders us through his messengers. He is the absolute being. He's not going to come and knock at my door and say that, Ali, you have to do this, you have to understand this. He's an absolute being. So how can I obey God? I cannot really obey God. Only the message he sends. And how can I obtain the message? Through the messenger. This is a very important matter as far as the message of the all messengers bring to us. All the scriptures, we call it the books that God sends to human beings. I think this is more than enough understood it. Okay. حتى إذا رأوا ما يوعدون فسيعلمون من أضعف ناصرا وأقل عددا. Again, this one also important, until they see that which they were promised, and until they see what they were promised, and they will know who is most helpless and counts for less. Now they will know who is less in number and most in being helpless. But when the promised end comes, I can simply understand this first to start with, until they see that which they were promised. It means I am going to be given death. So when the time approaches for my death, I really understand I am the most helpless one. I cannot stop it. I cannot stop aging. I cannot stop avoid dying. And although I may be the king of a huge or emperor of a huge empire with the most powerful army, let's say I am the emperor. Okay, I am putting myself in the emperor's throne. All right. At the end, what happens? All my army, all my power, all my possessions cannot do anything, although number-wise, quantitatively, they are great. Doesn't matter how great they are. Even the whole world is under my feet. I will understand I'm sure they meant nothing for me. They means nothing for me. Why I have cheated myself until now. That is the peak of realization, which is beautiful for us to be subject to death, because only through this day, through this death, reality of death, that I understand, if not now, definitely I will be facing it. And if I am realistic, at any time before the death time comes for me, look, I am proud of my money in account or my authority in the society, my political power, my army power. And I can really do whatever I want. I can really take people away from their properties, enslave them, make them work. But anytime it comes to my mind that, but at the end, I will die as well. Anytime, even while I am young, although young people more inclined to neglect it, but they know when you say that, you know that you will be really an old person and you will die. They cannot say, no, I'm not going to die. Impossible. No one can claim that. That is within our reality. That's why Afu Nasran, most helpless. That is my nature. I am the most helpless, cannot sustain my being in 1 minute. Impossible. Impossible. I have to wait if I am going to be created or not. Okay, I think this is easy to understand. قل إن أدري أقريب ما توعدون أم يجعل له ربي أمدا. Say, I mean, the prophets say, or you and I should say, I don't know whether what you have been warned about, which is the time for death, the end of my life, my being in this world, whether this warning is near or whether a distant time has been appointed for it by my Lord. No one can guarantee their life for tomorrow. I am going out today. I never ever can make sure that 100% I will be back without dying. No one can do that. This is God's warning, ma to adun. God promised us that definitely you are dependent on my will. Definitely you don't know what will happen to you any moment from now on. It is under my will. And you cannot stop your life. And you cannot stop in any way what I decide about you. So the prophet then say, I don't know if I am going to die, or if I'm speaking to someone, I don't know when you are going to die or not, but it is within your own existence that in your body also is continuously under change and definitely will experience death. So I'm going a bit fast in order to hoping that we may finish today, inshallah, this section. عالم الغيب ولا يظهر على غيبه أحدا. He alone knows غيب. We keep talking about غيب alone a lot, and so I shouldn't really spend a lot of time what غيب is. But if you like, we can talk. But غيب, the essence of beings, which is beyond our perception. Exactly the essence of beings. We don't know. It means, yes, we see in the labs that water molecules consist of two atoms. Two atoms. Okay. But how they come together and become liquid water. How the same water, essence of it. Yeah, I know when I heat it, it evaporates, the steam comes out. So this water molecule turns into a steam form. That's what I see what's happening. Exactly the essence of this event, I don't know. No one knows it. But the scientists claim that we know when you heat it, water evaporates it. Yeah, but how? The heat agitates the atoms on it. Yeah, but how agitates it? What is heat? The essence of it, we never know essence of it, anything. That is, I don't know. So, for example, again, in extension, we may say, I don't know when my body will receive death. My life, my body is not going to be able to work, so life is taken away from my body. And in our practical life also, I don't know when I'm going to die. I don't know what will happen tomorrow exactly, but essence of it, right? For example, I know there must be a creator of this universe, but I don't know what the creator's essence is like. I have no idea, but I am sure if I put water on fire, it evaporates, sure, but essence of it, I don't know. Exactly. I know the universe must be created by an absolute being, but the essence of it, I don't know. People don't think that we don't know essence of anything. And when it comes to God, they say, who is this God? How is it like? As if they know essence of this word. So they are expecting to know essence of the creator of this world, which is not nature of like this world. It is not double, thousands time, endless time impossible to know the essence of God, the creator, but we know it exists. It must exist. Why? It is my human qualities conclusion, my logic, my spirit says, I need eternity and there's no eternity here. So the one who gave me and arranged this world perfectly must know it. And I know that none of the material side of this world, none of the elements of this world can be the source of my existence. So we don't know. Except in 27, verse 27, إِلَّا مَنِ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ فَإِنَّهُ يَسْلُكُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ رَصَدًا. Except a messenger. Now this messenger here, sorry, one verse before, the messenger here, he has chosen. He then appoints guards before him and behind him. Now, this messenger here, the word messenger here, my cursor is showing, is not the prophets, the messengers who receive the message from God transferred to the prophet, which is known in religious tradition, especially the religions coming from the revelation or through prophets. Name it Gabriel, angel Gabriel. Okay. The messenger he has chosen, it means he transfers his absolute speech into a speech form that human beings can use it. Because the universe also is the transformation of the qualities of the creator into transformation of it into a form of the universe as we experience it here. We know that the creator of anything in this world manifests his qualities in such a way that only the one who creates the universe can be the creator of this small insect, perfectly arranged within the context of the insect. An insect can continue its life within the context of the universe. Everything is arranged, his position is arranged in such a point that everything is in connection with it. So we know this, and we understand that this universe is also transformation of absolute qualities into a limited form that we can observe. Qur'an also, the speech of absolute, the scriptures, the revelations, also speak the speech of the absolute being, his absolute knowledge, his absolute speech coming to me in the form that I can really hear, understand. And this transformation is made by messengers, as the Quran describes them, angels. So that is why the Quran and Islamic tradition and also other religious traditions, there's traditions, monotheist traditions, say Angel Gabriel. The name is not important. The important is a messenger is employed to transfer the absolute speech into an limited form that I can use. I can say, for example, إِلَّا مَنِ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ. This is God's words, but إِلَّا مَنِ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ is not absolute speech. I am saying it. I am able to say it. How can I say absolute? But the meaning in it, the meaning endowed on it is or comes from absolute knowledge. So I can go deeper and deeper and deeper. I cannot get to the end. And also time change, its meaning capacity also expands more. It exposes itself even more according to the requirements of the time. That is something else than what we are talking here. The language of the Quran is transferred from God to us through angels. So let's understand that no one can perceive, understand the ghaib, and he doesn't disclose his knowledge of it to anyone except to a messenger. So only the messenger can get it and transfer it to us. Then he appoints guards before him and behind him. This is also important, that what the Quran means. He appoints God. God appoints guards before him and behind him. It means the message is protected by guards. Again, these guards are in the Quran described as other angels as well. It means angels are represented through the creation of the universe, and the universe itself protects the reality, truthfulness of the message by being an evidence for it is being the truth. So they are protecting it. Any creation is the protector of the message we receive in the Quran, in the revelation. So we have to understand that angels are protecting it from coming the absolute being to a human being, but we have to understand that the angels are represented in the Quran as the agents, if you like, created and employed by God to transfer the message to us, to transfer God's orders, commands, as the Quran describes Amr. Quran says, let there be like this, and it is. So this transformation from absolute to limited form of existence, transient limited form of existence, is realized within the description of the Quran as angels. So the angels are protecting it, but practically speaking, we should understand that universe is witnessing in order to protect, or not practically speaking, the angelic side of the universe is witnessing to protect the message so that no one can really deny it, no one can really find any faults in it. So the last verse, لِيَعْلَمَ أَنْ قَدْ أَبْلَغُوا رِسَالَةِ رَبِّهِمْ وَأَحَاطَ بِمَا يَدَيْهِمْ وَأَحْصَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ عَدَدًا, to ensure that each of his messengers, again, I see that the translation is not really correct. Risale-i Rabbihim means the messages of his Lord. But the messengers, if we understand, it will be correct. If we understand that to ensure that each of his messengers, it means the angels being the witness, or by manifesting the uh, will of the creator in a created form, because they are employed in this position of transformers. So these messengers, not the prophets, that's correct. Now, if you understand that it's not, this one is not the prophets, then it is correct. His messengers indeed delivers, the messengers, the one who protects the message of the revelation by being a witness to their truthfulness. So this one, these messengers delivers his Lord's message. He knows all about them. So وَأَحَاطَ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ, so that God knows all about them. God knows what he is creating, and only he takes account of everything that exists. So وَأَحْصَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ عَدَدًا, he is the one who takes account of it. Means we are free to do whatever we want with this message. So he will take care of the results of our choices. We didn't really spend enough time in details of these verses, the last verses, but for the next week, I intended to start the section Yasin to be followed, inshallah, which is very well known section of the Quran. So inshallah, next week, we will follow it, inshallah, from section Yasin. I am excited to start with it, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Do you have any comment, any concern to share with me before we close the session today? Oh, I see no one is speaking. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين بحرمة سر سورة الفاتحة. اللهم السلام